the addition of more and more options for top-tier close air support. We had both the BGL series for the French Jaguar, the enhanced Paveway series for the British Jaguar, and Walleyes for the Skyhawks and the A-7E. On top of that, improvements on the existing CAS options have been made, including moving target tracking for the KH-29T on the MiG-27. With a growing list of munitions, it's time to ask the question, is it time for the A-10 Thunderbolt II and the Su-25 brrt? This episode of How to Implement will be special, focusing on the A-10 and the Su-25 and how they will fit in War Thunder. This episode will blend both of them into one video, and each section will start with the A-10 and the Su-25 follows after. Now with all that out of the way, the A-10 and the Su-25. The A-10 Thunderbolt II is a straight-wing jet attacker developed by Fairchild Republic as an improvement on the A-1 Sky Raider, known in-game as the AD-2 and AD-4. In the conceptual phase, World War II aircraft like the IL-2 and Henschel HS-129 were studied. The aim of the program that birthed the A-10 is a dedicated low-cost attack aircraft with emphasis on improvements on the A-1 Sky Raider's capabilities. At the time, the US studied the F-5 and A-7D as a supplement to the F-4, F-105, and F-111 in the employ of the USAF in 1966. When the AX program moved forward, more specifications arrived, with the intended aircraft required to be built around the 30mm Cannon GAU-8. In the initial production run, the A-10 was wrought with fatigue issues which required extensive reinforcement in order to be able to achieve the 8,000 flight hours requirement. The A-10 received upgrades over its lifetime, including the Pave Penny laser receiver that allows targets designated by friendly laser designators to be targeted by guided ordnance on the A-10. It also received an inertial navigation system and eventually a GPS. The A-10 was eventually upgraded to the A-10C in 2005. Eventually, the A-10 omitted the Pave Penny in order to make way for the Lightning and Sniper XR pods that it was already using. The Su-25 brrt is a straight-wing jet attacker developed by Sukhoi for a specialized close air support role similar to the IL-2. The current fighter bombers in the Soviet inventory at the time, the MiG-23, Su-7, Su-17, and MiG-21, did not fit the requirements for a specialized attacker. When the design competition was announced, the Su-25 only faced competition from the Ilyushin Company with the IL-102. However, the Su-25 was chosen by the Soviet Air Force. There were modernization attempts with the Su-25, including the Su-25T and Su-25TM tank busters, which eventually culminated in the Su-25SM. The aircraft served in many combat theaters in the Soviet and post-Soviet countries. The A-10 utilizes a straight cantilever wing design. The wide wings allow for superior maneuverability at low speeds, which the A-10 is built to stay around. This design also allows for very short takeoffs and landings on makeshift or damaged runways. It runs on two General Electric TF-34 turbofans mounted on the aft of the fuselage. While the A-10 has no terrain following radar, ground search radar, the A-10 has CTRP and a heads-up display. The A-10 similarly has no air search radar but mounts the AN/ALR-69 RWR and the AN/ALE-40 countermeasure dispenser. While natively it only possesses the Pave Penny laser receiver, it has the capacity to utilize the Lightning and Sniper XR targeting pods. It has inertial navigation, and eventually it was upgraded to a GPS. The aircraft may seem rudimentary compared to some of the other aircraft I featured on here, but where the A-10 shines is not in its avionics. It's a low-cost attack aircraft, not an interdictor. Where the A-10 shines is its survivability, built to withstand 23mm armor-piercing and HE shells. The A-10 is called a flying tank not only for this but also the 1,200 pounds of titanium plating surrounding the cockpit, known as the armored bathtub. This plating allows it to survive direct hits from 23mm guns and indirect hits from calibers up to 57mm. On top of this, the A-10 is known to have many backup mechanisms in place should its primary control mechanisms fail. It is quoted to be able to return to base with half of a tail, half of an engine, and half of a wing. The Su-25 utilizes a cantilever trapezoidal wing design. Like the A-10, it also boasts low-speed maneuverability. Unlike the A-10 though, the Su-25 mounts two non-afterburning R195 engines conventionally at the lower part of the fuselage. While only the Su-25T received electro-optical or TV guidance, the baseline Su-25 follows in the MiG-27's footsteps by mounting a laser rangefinder in the nose. On top of this, the Su-25 uses the SPO-15 radar homing and warning system, a DIS-7 Doppler radar, and 4 chaff and flare dispensers with 32 countermeasures each, a total of 128. Like its American counterpart, the Su-25 also contains the same cockpit armor plating concept as the A-10. However, to which degree it is unspecified, but it is also known that it is the same titanium plating as the A-10. In a different direction compared to other episodes of this series, the gun is the most interesting thing about the A-10. The GAU-8 30mm 6-barrel rotary cannon fires at a rate of 3,900 rounds per minute. The ammunition of the Avenger consists of the PGU-14B armor-piercing incendiary and the PGU-13B high-explosive incendiary. The anti-tank configuration of the belt is arranged into 5 API shells for 1 HEI shell. The PGU-14B is a lightweight aluminum body with a depleted uranium penetrator that could pen 55mm at 30 degrees from a distance of 1,200 meters away, and 76mm at 30 degrees from 300 meters away. The A-10 carries 1,174 rounds of the 30mm and is said to take out enemy tanks between 11 to 24 rounds. The Su-25 uses a cut-down version of the gun on the MiG-27, the GSH-30-2. The complaints of the MiG-27 pilots using the GSH-30-6 rotary gun led to swapping out the 6-barrel gun to a twin-barrel. The gun in its twin-barrel configuration is currently present in-game in the Mi-24P. However, compared to the A-10, the Su-25 only has 250 rounds for its gun. For air defense armament, the A-10 tries to make up for it by mounting two AIM-9L or AIM-9M sidewinders. Aside from that, the A-10 is empty in that department. In my opinion, the A-10A should only have the AIM-9L sidewinder unlockable at Tier 2, and the A-10C can have both the AIM-9L and AIM-9M at Tier 2 and Tier 3 respectively. In-game, the AIM-9L sits between the R60M and R24T in terms of capability. It's better than the R60M in lock range, as the AIM-9L has 3.00 kilometers lock range in all aspects, whereas the R24 is 4.3 kilometers. For maneuverability, the R60M and AIM-9L are tied at 30G, making them superior to the R24 at 24G. However, this is offset by the fact that it has a really high burn time and terminal energy. So I believe that if there's one fixed-wing aircraft to have the AIM-9L first, it should be the A-10. The baseline Su-25 received the R60M only. It wouldn't be until the Su-25T that R-73s would be fitted. For ground attack ordnance, the A-10 could carry the suite of Hydra rockets either in 4 pods of 19 Hydra rockets or 6 pods of 7 Hydra rockets in the Lao-61 or Lao-68 pods respectively. It could also utilize the Lao-131 pods. For bombs, it could carry the Mark 80 series of bombs and their JDAM counterparts. For guided bombs, I think the A-10 has to mount the Lightning or Sniper XR to lace targets for the Paveway series of bombs, as the Pave Penny requires laser designation from external sources, which still isn't a thing in War Thunder. The cream of the A-10's crop is its AGM-65 Maverick. It utilizes the AGM-65D variant, which was considered the poor man's flare, as the A-10 used the infrared on the Maverick's camera as a makeshift targeting pod. This would be the armaments that would make it in-game. Other armaments like cluster bomb munitions or incendiary munitions would definitely not be viable in War Thunder. For the Su-25's ground attack ordnance, the Su-25 baseline can carry the suite of Fab bombs from 100 to 500, the suite of unguided rockets from S8 to the S-25, and laser-guided missiles like the KH-25ML and KH-29L. However, it does not carry a TV guidance system, at least not until the Su-25T. The Su-25T supplants this by being able to guide the TV-guided ordnance like the CAB 500 and the KH-29T. The Su-25T's improved targeting system, known as the Shkval, is identical to the Ka-50's targeting system, thus allowing it to fire 9 K-121 Vickers missiles. This is the primary reason I'm omitting the modernized Frogfoots at the moment, as they have upgrades that go beyond what is considered balanced for 11.0 Grand Force's gameplay at the moment. All of the technologies that the A-10 utilizes is already in-game in some fashion, except perhaps for the FLIR-capable Mavericks. I believe the A-10 needs a little bit more time to ripen before being added. The F-111 can be added in the interim before the A-10, not because it's overpowered right now or it's going to be a difficult opponent, but only because ECM pods have not fully matured. The A-10's best reprieve against SAMs like the Crotale or the Tunguska is the fact that the radars can be spoofed to give the A-10 more time to line up a proper attack without being shot out of the sky. The things A-10s have to do to be able to survive drastically lowers its efficiency at the BR it's to be placed at. Speaking of the BRs to be placed at, I believe the A-10A should be added with A-9Ls and ECM pods for maximum efficiency, along with its FLIR Mavericks at 11.0 after the A-7E costing 400,000 RP, 1,060,000 Silver Lions, and 360,000 Silver Lions crew cost. The Su-25 will be in the same ballpark with less capabilities since the TV guidance is locked to the Su-25T. Essentially, a baseline Su-25 model will be a MiG-27 downgrade in all aspects. It has less missiles than the MiG-27 and the Su-17, less ammo than the MiG-27, and it is far slower than any attacker at the intended BRs to be placed in. It would be far maneuverable than anything at its BR, sure, but so are props. The R60Ms are great, but only 2 of them against BVRs would be difficult at 11.0. As it stands, I recommend to not add the baseline Su-25 and instead go straight for the Su-25T. It will put its anti-tank capability on par with the MiG-27, and the R-73 and upgraded avionics allow it to at least weather 11.0 aircraft. The Su-25T can sit at 11.0 after the MiG-27 at 400,000 RP, 1,060,000 SL, and 360,000 SL crew cost. There we have it, the A-10 and the Su-25. They're perhaps the most difficult vehicles to balance in game as they perform differently in air RB and ground RB. This is one of the reasons I really advocate for a different BR for air RB and ground RB to fit a lot more aircraft into the game. As such, I'll give Italy some love and be working on the AMX International AMX after another video that I have in the works. Thank you for watching. This is the Dr. MD leading for landing.